Hello, everybody. Today, I'm really excited to bring you the Leagues 5 starting route. I know a lot of people have been asking me about this for weeks, but yeah, now that we've seen the starter region early game tasks, I'm really happy to go ahead and present my route. Just like last year, I'll be going through a full walkthrough of every single task and essentially commentating my playthrough that I did my very first time around. Before I begin, I did want to go through a couple of considerations you should keep in mind while watching this. First off, this route will be relic neutral. It won't really be taking advantage of any of the relics you can get in the early game. So while no relic will be required to follow this, it also might not take advantage of your starter relics either. And you may want to consider adding some tasks that benefit from your relics. Next, every task on this route has no competition. So you won't be competing against other players who are also trying to follow the same route. Everybody can do this route pretty much at the same time. There's a few tasks that I've listed as optional. They might have some competition, but they're just on the route anyway, so you might want to just take a look and just see. Maybe nobody's there. But this does mean that if you're doing this in the future, not on the very first hour of leagues, there's going to be a lot more tasks available to you. And even things such as like mining copper rocks, that can be a huge bottleneck in the first hour of leagues. In addition, while this route is largely based on last year's, I have tried to optimize even further for this year, and I've also cut down on some of those skilling portions. There's also a lot of combat tasks this year, but this route will largely be avoiding those, as even if you want to safe spot a moss giant, if I tell 1,000 people to go do that, it's not going to be a good time for anyone. Finally, this route will go through 76 tasks and 1,000 points that you can earn in the first hour of Leagues 5. So while we don't know what the exact requirement is for the next tiers or for unlocking your first zone, I hope that this gives enough flexibility and enough wiggle room so that, if you can't do any task or if you want to skip something or maybe you just forgot, you'll still have plenty of tasks available to you following this route, and this should get you easily to your first zone. The last point I'll make before I begin the commentary is my inventory. I've essentially copied over the exact inventory that I started Leagues 4 with. However, I've also added stamina pots to mimic Unlimited Run, 10,000 coins, which I will be going to the Stronghold of Security for, and a couple teleports to Lumbridge, Brimhaven, and my house, just to get around. In Leagues, there will be waypoints in Karamja as well as in Mistlin that you can teleport at any time through the Leagues menu. Obviously, I don't have that in the main game, so I'm just using some teleports to mimic that. And with that being said, let's get into the route. When you start Leagues, there will be a quick tutorial that will kind of explain the idea behind relics and unlocking your regions. Completing the Leagues tutorial is a task, as well as opening up the Leagues menu. I'm just mocking that by opening up the settings. Next, head south and dance in the graveyard. Then go ahead and visit Death's Domain. This is another task. Finally, go ahead and talk to Count Check. They will give you a teleport to the Stronghold of Security, which is going to be our first major destination for that 10,000 coins. Now, in the Stronghold, there should be so many people doing this at once in the first hour that you really shouldn't have much risk of death. However, if you are scared or maybe you're not doing this at the start of Leagues, you might want to grab a little bit of food south at the Lumbridge swamp. Just get yourself some fish, cook it up, just so you feel a little bit safer. In the Stronghold, go ahead and equip your Dream and Staff and make sure that it's on defensive. We're going to be doing a couple of combat tasks with the goal of just reaching level 5 defense. Luckily, there's a lot of spawns in the Stronghold, so go ahead and kill a rat here to complete a task. You'll also want to defeat a goblin, specifically one that has a spear. These might hit a bit hard, but you should be fine. I did the DPS calculations. You really shouldn't be dying to them. This actually gives you 2 tasks, defeating a goblin as well as killing a goblin holding a spear. In addition, make sure that you pick up some bones and bury them to complete yet another task. At some point in this process, you should get your very first level up, which completes another task. Continue on through the Stronghold of Security. Again, there really shouldn't be too much risk of dying. Enemies in here have a max hit of 8, I believe. And before Leagues, make sure that you have 2-factor authentication set up on your account so you don't run into an issue of not being able to actually access the rewards from the Stronghold. Now, while we're primarily here for the 10,000 coins from the 3rd floor, continue on and finish the 4th floor, as well as equipping some fancy boots or fighting boots is another task. Our first chunk of tasks is completed. You should be at 10 tasks and 120 points. From here, you'll be teleporting to Karamja. Use the Leagues menu to teleport over there. There is no other way of actually accessing this without the Leagues teleport. Go ahead and grab a pineapple on Karamja. There should be plenty, but if there's just too many people here, we can get this later on as well. Next, go ahead and kill a snake. This is the only combat one where there might not be enough spawns for everybody, so if it's too crowded, just move on. There's some more later on, and we'll come back here as well. So don't get too hung up. Don't get stuck in a bottleneck trying to kill a snake. Especially if you're low on food from the Stronghold, just don't bother. Don't risk it. Just keep on going. Now you'll want to enter the Brimhaven dungeon. We have the coins to afford this. You only need to enter and then you can leave. You don't need to go any further. Now head north to the pier and you'll be buying something from the trader crew members. Get a knife as well as 11 bananas. For inventory management, you can drop most of the items that I've dropped. My inventory is just a little bit more clogged because of the stamina pots as well as those house tablets. Go ahead and eat one of those bananas to complete a task. The other 10 will be used to fill the crate, so you don't have to actually compete against other people at the banana trees. If you need food, you can also chop up the pineapple to make some pineapple rings. There will be a couple more snakes coming up. Maybe you want to heal up and be ready to fight one of those if you didn't get a chance to do so already. Again, a couple more snakes over here, but don't worry if it's too crowded, just keep on moving on, all right? We don't want to be stuck in bottlenecks. It's just not worth it. Talk to Luthus and fill up the crate. That completes another task. From here, go ahead and teleport back to the Karamja waypoint. There's no cooldown to it, so you should be able to just use it again and save a little bit of time. And this time, we'll be taking the cart over to Shiloh Village. It's auto-completed, so shouldn't have a problem. Head over to Duradel and get yourself a task. Slayer Masters and Leagues all function the same, and they don't have any requirements for you to access them. That spiny helmet requires level 5 defense to wear, which is why we're fitting in just a couple of combat tasks just to try to get to 5 defense efficiently without wasting time just killing goblins and stuff. Use the Slayer gem to check your Slayer task, and that completes another Leagues task. Now go ahead and buy yourself a torch from the general store and light it to complete another task. Finally, head to the Karamja Inn in Northeast Shiloh Village and talk to the guy to buy yourself, a stay at the inn for a night. This completes a medium task, and in addition, buy yourself some beer before you leave. We're heading back to Lumbridge with Home Teleport, which is going to complete another task. This brings our total up to 20 tasks and 260 points so far. Okay, now we're starting our Lumbridge 2 chunk, which will focus on the swamp and Zanaris. First up, go ahead and just use the northern staircase. This completes a task. Before you leave Lumbridge, talk to Hans and get your age. You can really do this whenever you want, but I just decided to throw it in here. Now go ahead and pickpocket a citizen. You're going to want to do this all the way until 28 coin pouches to open them all at once. However, if you're taking too much damage and you're scared of dying, that's okay. We can do this later when we come back to Lumbridge, so just move on. Pickpocketing a citizen is a task, the 28 coin pouch is a task, and you'll also get like level 10 thieving off this, which will be another 2 tasks. Go ahead and pray at the altar in Lumbridge. You'll have to turn on your prayer so that it actually drains to 0, and then you can recharge it. Now go ahead and talk to Bob and ask for a quest, which is another task, and buy yourself a steel axe, which we'll be using a little bit later on. Continue south to Lumbridge Swamp over to the fishing area and start catching some shrimp. Our goal here is to get to level 5 fishing. And again, I've really tried to cut down on the skilling portions of this route, and this also avoids Draynor Village, so you're not going to get mogged by dark wizards. Once you have your shrimp, head west and go chop down some dead trees. Use 1 logs to fletch some arrow shafts, which will complete another task, and use another set to burn some logs to complete a task. Go ahead and cook your shrimp on the fire just so you have a little bit of food. Now you should burn one of your shrimp here to complete a task, most likely. However, if by chance you manage to get 5 in a row, that's another task anyways. So either way, you're completing one of those tasks. However, don't cook all your fish. Try to save like 2 or 3 raw shrimp, which we'll be using at the Lumbridge range a little bit later on. Now you have your final boss for the combat section. You need to kill a regular frog. They're only level 5. They shouldn't be too hard, and that's why we made the shrimp, just in case you're a little bit low on food. If you followed all of those combat tasks, the rat, the goblin, the snake, and the frog, I believe you should be at level 5 defense now, assuming you've been training on defensive the whole time. So you can go ahead and equip your spiny helmet. That will complete a task. And don't worry if you're a little bit short or maybe you forgot to switch to defensive. You can kill some goblins or some chickens later on. It's no big deal. Now head over to the candle seller here and buy a candle. This is a medium task. And then you'll head over to Zanaris. We'll be doing all those fairy ring tasks a little bit earlier this time. Entering Zanaris is a task, and then go ahead and use a fairy ring to CKR. This is south of Taiba One Eye Village. This is so that you can fish a Karamja. There's no quest requirement. You only need level 5 fishing. Just be careful of the hobgoblins as they can attack you. Just run away from them. Using a fairy ring is a task, as well as catching a Karamja. And if you forgot to, this is a good chance to catch like 2 or 3 raw shrimp just for a little bit later on. If you've been keeping up with every task, you should actually have completed 40 tasks by now, and in addition, you should have 500 points. And while we don't know for sure, 500 points has been the threshold for tier 2. So you'll not only have unlocked the next relic tier, but you'll also be getting 8 times experience moving forward. Go ahead and teleport back to Lumbridge for our Lumbridge 3 chunk. Now we'll be doing Cook's Assistant, so head over to the cow field. Milk a cow to complete a task, and you can also kill some goblins here if you're still missing that defense level. Head to the chicken coop and try to kill a chicken with your bare hands. I believe you can still do this on defensive just to get a little bit more if you're not level 5 already. If there's too many people, just skip it for now. There's a ton of chickens coming up in just a bit. And you can also search the coop to get yourself yourself an egg, you're not going to have to pick up the spawn and fight against other people for it. Head back towards Draynor and we'll be heading to the windmill. You can see that this is the other chicken field. There's so many of them here. You should have no problem getting one kill with your bare hands. Just make sure you unequip your Drayman staff in case you forgot. Now, this is one of those optional tasks, eating an onion. I don't know if it's going to be possible to do this if there's like 1,000 people trying to get these onions, but you might want to just take a look at it, see if you can go grab one real quick and move on. It's free points. Either way, head over to the wheat field and you're going to cry in the wheat field for another task. Grab some wheat and head into the windmill so that you can make some flour. This is required for Cook's Assistant, but it also completes another task. Finally, head over to this haystack and just search it a couple times to find a needle. It shouldn't take too long. Just be careful of spam clicking. I don't know if that actually works. Head over to Draynor Village and we're going to start by insulting Aggie the Witch. This just takes 20 coins from you. No big deal. Next, go ahead and complete the Draynor Agility course. The requirements are now Agility level 1, so this is fine to do right from the start. Really, we're just looking for a Mark of Grace here to complete another task and get 30 points. However, if you'd like, you can stay and complete 10 laps of the course. It's really not required at all, but maybe if you got unlucky with your Marks of Grace, you've already done like 6 or 7 laps, just finish the 10 anyways. But it's up to you. If you get the Mark of Grace in like your second lap, you might want to just go ahead and skip this. It took me about 7 minutes to do all 10. Now, before you leave Draynor, you're going to want to buy a couple of items. Get yourself a Chronicle with like 5 pages so that you can teleport to Varrock for our next chunk. And in addition, go ahead and buy yourself 4 barley seeds, which will be used very shortly. Next, we'll be heading to the Wizard Tower to kill a lesser... No, we're not doing the lesser demon, guys. Okay, I'm just kidding. Head up to Draynor Manor, and there is a task to have a chair follow you. Now, last year, I didn't have any problem with this, but you can probably see I'm struggling a bit here to get it to follow me. I would just give it a shot and see if it works. Otherwise, just continue on. Like, don't waste more than like a minute here. And we'll end this section by teleporting back to Lumbridge yet again. This will allow us to complete Cook's Assistant as well as use the range in Lumbridge Castle for another medium task. Our total should be up to 50 tasks now and 680 points. We have our final 2 sections in Varrock, so use the Chronicle to teleport over there. Start by buying a rake as well as 3 compost and a seed dibber from the Master Farmer. Rake the patch at the Champions Guild to complete another task, and you're going to want to actually rake it all the way through. Then head over to the hops patch just a little bit south, rake that one 3 times as well. And this should actually give you level 3 farming so you can plant those barley seeds. We bought that compost so that you can pay the Master Farmer to watch your crops, and that completes another task. Now you can use the Chronicle to head back, save a little bit of time here, and we're going to head into Varrock. Now, when you enter, there is a little cabbage field here. Picking up one of these cabbages is a task. But again, this is going to be an optional task because I don't know how crowded or what the spawn rate on these is. So just take a peek. If you can get it, otherwise, move on. If you forgot to buy your beer, now's a really good chance to step into the Blue Moon Inn and get that. We're going to be using it very shortly. Talk to Charlie the Tramp, tell him to get a job as upsetting the homeless completes a task. You'll also want to head into the sword shop and get yourself an iron dagger to complete another task. Finally, head to Zaph's Staffs and get yourself whatever elemental staff you'd like. That completes another staff. We're heading to Gertrude next, but you may want to stop at the bank real quick. Make sure you have your pickaxe with you as well as both of your axes. You can probably get rid of your food now as there's no more combat sections or anything like that. Gertrude's cat is auto-completed in this leagues, so you can go ahead and talk to her to claim a kitten. Interact and stroke your kitten to complete another task. Next, we'll be going back once again to Barbarian Village. Get yourself a steel full helm and equip it. That completes another task. And head into the Long Hall and drink a beer to complete another task. Go ahead and use that Chronicle teleport once again. Now we're going to do Varrock East. At this point, you should be at 58 tasks and 780 points. Once again, head into Varrock and check to see if there's any cabbages. Otherwise, just go ahead and skip it. At any point in Varrock, look to see if there's any stray dogs. Petting them completes a task, and now's a good time to get that done. Now, I forgot about this one in the route, so the timer's a little bit off, but you can go ahead and use the helmet in this hat stand over by this guy's house, and that actually is another task. We don't have to do rune mysteries this year. However, visiting the rune essence mine is another task, as well as mining some rune essence. So just mine one, complete the task, and move on. Now we're going to head over to the Varrock tea stall and steal yourself 1 cup of tea. Don't drink it, as we'll be using it for the next task. Head over to Elsie at the Varrock church, give her the cup of tea, and she'll tell you a story which completes another task. Now you'll want to head over to the estate agent and buy yourself a player-owned house. You can do the Daddy's Home quest if you'd like. I'm just skipping it and buying a player-owned house instead. Finally, head over to the hairdresser and get yourself a haircut for another task. Now you should be at 8 times experience, which means it's a totally fine time to go ahead and do the natural history quiz. It does take a bit of time, but it really boosts your Slayer and your Hunter, so I would just go ahead and get that done. Completing the natural history quiz is a task. In addition, the levels that you get in Slayer and Hunter will give you a task for achieving your first level 20, and by now you should have a total level of 100. Head east out of Varrock, make sure you have both of those axes. That's actually a good reminder that there's a lot of random event tasks in leagues this year. So if you get any of those random events like Evil Bob or the pinball, go ahead and actually do them. It's just some easy points that you can get. You might even get a nice item out of it. Now there's one small skilling section here. You're going to want to hit level 6 woodcutting so you can chop some logs with a steel axe. And you can go all the way to level 15 to chop and burn some oak logs as well. You don't really have to do this though. I just left a little bit more flexibility and a little bit more room in case you missed anything. And also because we don't know exactly how many tasks are required for that first region. But there's a very good chance you've already unlocked the first region by now. So feel free to skip this very small skilling section. It's only like 10 logs, so it's going to be really fast anyways. Once you're 15 woodcutting, chop and burn some oak logs. And if you are running the axe relic, just be careful that you're not banking all those logs. You want to actually go ahead and get your fire making up here as well. Finally, take 1 logs and turn it into a plank at the sawmill for another task. We're going to conclude this section by heading over to Fossil Island. Bon Voyage is auto-completed, as well as petting the museum camp dog. Please don't forget this one. At this point, you should have 74 tasks completed and 960 points. We've got 2 really easy tasks left to do. Head over to Karamja and enter your player-owned house. If you missed the snake and the pineapple, you might want to try to do that right now as well. Entering your house completes a task, as well as building a room in your player-owned house. So just build a parlor. It's the cheapest option, and that's the entire route. Now, I forgot to pause here, but yeah, that's 47 minutes for over 1,000 points, 76 tasks. You'll have your tier 2 relics probably by now. You'll almost definitely have your first region. And I think it's really foolproof. I just had no trouble at all doing this route. I found it very simple and straightforward. Again, no competition tasks, no real skilling chunks either. So you really can just move smoothly from task to task to task. And honestly, I had a blast making this route, but going through it as well, it just felt really nice and smooth to play through. And I hope that you guys enjoy it as well on day 1. Remember, this is just a starting point. There's a lot of other tasks I've considered that I don't know if they would work if I told so many people to go and do them all at once. So be a little bit experimental and innovative as well. See how you can complete some of those tasks and be a bit more creative in getting them done. And enjoy getting to your first region. I think the game really opens up once you've gotten there. And I really hope you guys have a wonderful leagues ahead of you. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know if there's any feedback. I'm sure there's a couple of tasks I might have missed. If you want to put those in the comments below, help everybody else out. Although you might want to save some of those real good techniques for yourself. On day 1, I'll be going through this route pretty much task by task. And I'm also looking to put this up as an OSRS wiki page, something that you can go down kind of task by task by task and just check off what you've done and what you're still kind of coming up next with. Thank you for watching and have a good leagues.